lessons where stories mend and hearts open. I'm your host, Saima, and tonight's guest is our amazing Melinda Lee Schmitt, empowerment coach and author of Rebel Hugger, a memoir born from one brave act, hugging thousands of strangers. After navigating a painful pandemic divorce, Melinda turned to connection as a path to healing. Her journey is a testament to how touch, truth, and tenderness can guide us back to self love. So, Melinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Saima. I'm happy to be here.
You're warmly welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here. So, Melinda, what inspired you to start hugging strangers, and how did that act become part of your personal healing? I'm really curious to know this.
Yeah. So the act of hugging thousands of strangers came from feeling lonely when I moved. I'm here in the United States and I was living in Connecticut. I moved multiple states away and I didn't know anybody in the area. And I missed hugs. I missed that connection. And I was really thinking, if I'm missing that, then maybe other people are too. So I really wanted to share love and connection and let people know through this hug without words, I see you, you matter, and I appreciate you in this moment. And that felt like it would be very fulfilling for me. And so I asked uh, everybody that I encountered for a whole year, I would ask them for a hug and we would share this very vulnerable, very beautiful moment. And the act of connection really lifted me and made me feel amazing for that whole year. But when it was over, I actually felt lonelier than ever. And it was through the act of reviewing like all of the things that I learned in hugging those thousands of people to recognize that the one place that I was not sharing love was with myself. And it took removing myself from the relationship that I was in to really be able to dive in, especially in the height of the pandemic where we were disconnected from everybody anyway. It was a perfect healing opportunity for me to go within and discover where I wasn't seeing myself, valuing myself, and appreciating myself. And that was my journey to self love.
Mm-hmm. That's incredibly moving, Melinda. Like, the simplicity of a hug might seem small to some, but hearing how it became a bridge between your pain and your purpose really brings it to life in such a beautiful way, I must say. And the fact that you have turned your own healing into something that could ripple out to others speaks volumes about your heart. It's such a powerful reminder that, sometimes the most profound healing doesn't come from doing something big, but from showing fully with love in the smallest of ways.
Absolutely. I find that even for the people, which it didn't happen often, but I had maybe about 5 people that said no to my hugs. And I respected that because I
Mm-hmm.
know not everybody, does enjoy that touch. But even in those moments, just offering a warm smile, there was no, um, I didn't need to be defensive over their no, and they weren't upset that I had asked. It was simply this moment of, well, okay, I respect that. And I still see you and I still value you and I still appreciate you. And let me share that with this smile. So even if that hug can't be shared, a smile is enough.
Absolutely, that's heartwarming. Now, you went through a divorce and the isolation of a pandemic. So, what role did physical connection play in your emotional recovery?
I mean, the fact that it happened during the pandemic really put a damper on any of that like physical connection that I had come to rely on through the hugs. And I think that it was a necessary thing because I was receiving a lot of my own validation through other people's through other people. So through the hugs, which are beautiful and incredible and amazing and important, they also kept me from really hugging myself, because as long as I was looking for the validation through other people, I wasn't looking at where I might not be giving it to myself. So as much as I missed that connection during the pandemic, I think it was necessary for me not to have it, so that I was forced to look within.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Navigating something as personal and painful as divorce is already incredibly challenging, but to go through it during a time of global isolation, even when basic human connection was limited, that adds a whole layer of complexity and grief. But like what you've shared about physical connection, whether it was a hug, a hand on the shoulder, or even you know, it really highlights how vital that kind of presence is to our healing. And I think so many people will resonate with that, especially those who felt, emotionally unmoved during the pandemic. Your experience is a powerful reminder that healing often starts with like simple things, and that reaching for connection, even in the smallest ways, can be an act for courage and restoration for sure.
Yeah, and I found that during the pandemic, when I wasn't able to have that physical connection, I did have to find other ways of discovering that connection. And so I leaned on the experience that I had with hugs to say, okay, if I removed the physical connection, then what else was there that I could lean in on when I'm not physically connecting with people? And the piece that kind of came forward for me was the vulnerability. Because when you're hugging someone, all of your defenses, if you're really leaning into it, all of your defenses are down, and it's a very vulnerable, authentic, raw moment. And, I started during the pandemic without having a partner in my house with me. So I wasn't getting that physical connection every day. How could I maintain that connection, and how can I foster that kind of connection in other ways? And so I started leaning into what it would feel like to be more vulnerable in my conversations with people, whether it was over the phone or over Zoom, over video chats. And it's terrifying because this whole idea and the process of vulnerability can be very scary. But when you lean into it and when it's received by people who are choosing to love you back, that is incredibly healing as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know, grief often disconnects us, but your story proves that healing can happen in the most human ways.
Yeah. You mean like through the hugs or through the talking or through like, we can always find a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes. It really proves, and that's a great reminder for everyone.
Yeah, that connection and healing is always available to us, no matter the place that we're in or what's
Mm.
happening around us.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now, in your coaching, how do you integrate physical connection, energy healing, and even nature to help clients reclaim their lives?
So it's a beautiful culmination of um, returning to self, using those different aspects as tools. So the energy healing can help, clear out anything that's not ours that we may have picked up along the way. And then connecting with nature and with animals, they don't know anything but how to be authentic. So they become this perfect mirror to what it is that we are in needing of healing. And so these are tools that we can use as we are trying to grow and are on our on our own journey of discovering our own authenticity and our own power.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That like such a beautifully holistic approach. The way you weave physical connection, energy work, and nature together creates, something that feels not just therapeutic but deeply human. It's clear that you're not just helping people fix something, but you're guiding them back into a relationship with themselves, body, mind, and spirit, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we are our most authentic self, we are exactly what the world needs. And so I just want everybody to be in that space of feeling safe and comfortable with who they are so that they can bring the magic that they came here to bring and put that out in the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, is there a connection between emotional blocks and our ability or inability to receive touch?
Repeat that, please.
Mm-hmm, sure. Yeah, sure. Is there a connection between emotional blocks and our ability, or our inability to receive touch?
That's a great question, and I can't speak for everybody in that particular instance, but I do think I have seen in myself the ways that when I'm masking who I am or when I'm um, creating a barrier and keeping people from getting to know the real me, absolutely. Those are the moments when I feel not only fearful of touch, but overwhelmed by the concept of it because it is so vulnerable. So I absolutely feel like that can certainly be a block. I don't know if it is for everybody, but it certainly can be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a great way to explain it indeed. So, like you call yourself a rebel hugger, in a society that, often discourages vulnerability, what does hugging represent to you now?
So, when I first got started, it was this like really feel good, like I just want to feel good through these hugs and I want to make other people feel good through these hugs. And it was so innocent, and really beautiful. But the more that I've spent time in that energy and in these hugs, which it's been more than 20 years now, I'm recognizing that there is a depth to it. The more that we lean into this physical touch and to these hugs and the vulnerability in our connections with others, it feels like a rebellion because I'm sitting there like in front of somebody that may think completely different than me, that may look completely different than me, that may not even like me. And I'm standing in
Mhm.
front of them saying, I don't care about all of that. I see your humanity and I'm asking you to see mine. And that is so deep and so rich. And that feels like the rebellion.
Mm-hmm. That's such a beautiful way to reclaim something so often overlooked, like
Yeah,
hearing you talk about hugging as a form of resistance, of choosing connection over disconnection, softness over guardness. It really brings depth to what might seem like a simple gesture. And you are reminding us that healing doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes it starts with a hug offered at the right moment from the right place in the heart.
absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yes.
there's a lot of scientific um research that backs all of this too. When you hug for a certain amount of time, up to 20 seconds, oxytocin and all of these good feeling hormones are released. So not only is your emotions healed through this connection, but you are physically healing through this connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's noteworthy. Now, so do you think our world needs more rebellion through tenderness?
Oh my gosh. I think that the world would absolutely be healed if we could all just soften a little bit more and be a little bit more vulnerable and willing to connect with one another. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I too agree 100%. Like, I love that, and I completely feel truth in it. In a world that can be so loud with, division, performance, choosing tenderness really is a form of rebellion. It disrupts the patterns of disconnection. It says like, I refuse to shut down even when it hurts. I choose to stay soft, to stay human.
Yeah.
And thank you for standing for that kind of courage. It's deeply needed.
Yeah, I would love to see so much more of that in the world. And it is, I think the piece that feels so rebellious is that it feels scary. Like it's this simple act of, wrapping your arms around someone and wanting to share that love. But with our families, it can be relatively easy depending on our families. But with others, it can be so challenging and it can feel so scary because, like you said, Saima, we live in this world that does not encourage that. So, to have the courage to lean into that kind of vulnerability and to be soft is just powerful.
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree more, Melinda. Now, what advice do you have for someone who feels unloved but unsure like how to begin reconnecting either with others or themselves?
When you're feeling unloved, when I have felt unloved, I think that that's the moment that it's the most frightening, right? Because you're so terrified of more rejection when really that initial rejection is coming from ourselves, whether we realize it or not. So I believe that it really begins with ourselves. Um, that's the easy answer, right? The more challenging answer is that some of us may not have the ability to access that self love for ourselves because we've lived such traumatic lives. And in those
Mhm.
moments, yeah. And in those moments, I highly encourage if they have anyone, and that anyone might even be just a pet, if they have anyone that they feel safe with, to just slowly, in the tiniest baby steps, just open up just a little bit more. Like I said, even if it is just with a pet, and just feel what it might feel like to soften in their presence. It doesn't mean that you have to hug them, and it doesn't mean that you have to ask for that love, and it doesn't mean that you have to take a more dramatic step that might put us into some nervous system dysregulation and some fight or flight, but maybe just softening a tiny little bit and getting curious about what would it look like if in the face of this person that I already feel safe with, or this animal that I already feel safe with, what would it feel like to just soften and lower my defenses just a little bit and have that be a continued practice?
Yes, starting with ourselves, like as you said, can feel like the quietest, smallest step, but it's actually the most powerful. And the way you describe turning inward, like leaning to offer yourself the love, kindness, and even the physical presence you may have longed for from others, it's not just healing, it's revolutionary. And that's such a beautiful and grounding reminder.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, listeners, if you have been feeling unseen, untouched, or unworthy, this is an invitation to reach out, start with a hand over your heart, and read Rebel Hugger, follow Melinda's work, and remember, your path to healing doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to begin.